So let's go take a little bit of a rewind. So Revelation started in chapter 1 through 3 as this beautiful picture of a message from Jesus through this apostle John to specifically, now this is very important, Revelation was specifically written to 7 churches right after Jesus rose from the dead, and they were going through persecution and trouble. Many of them were going through persecution, but many churches who came to know Jesus Christ became apathetic, and they became immoral in their life, and they allowed the influences of this world to weigh on them. And don't you kind of feel that today? That Christians can either be apathetic or they're persecuted. They just kind of give up, and we'll talk about that in just a few moments. So these 7 churches, either they needed to compromise because of the tribulation that they were going through, or they could stay faithful to the end and receive the crown, just receive what God has called them to be. To be able to be conquerors are rewarded with a new creation. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but these 7 churches look very similar to the churches of today. So even though they were written specifically to these 7 churches, we can learn so much from this to be prepared for Christ's return. So it went from this earthly perspective, and then we go to chapter 4 and 5 to a heavenly perspective. It isn't just, I've been mentioning that all the time, earthly to heavenly. So in this heavenly perspective, we see that in heaven, in the throne room of God, there are angels who all day and night sing holy, holy means separate, special, unique. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. And we see this figure, God, seated on a throne, and he has a scroll. And on these scrolls are 7 seals. And these 7 seals represent what we're going to be talking about, or have been talking about the 7 seals. And in heaven, God's like, I've got a scroll with my will to be done. Who can open it? Who is worthy to open my will? Nobody. Nobody. And there's weeping sort of in heaven of this mystery of who can open the scroll in the 7 seals. And then appeared the Lion, the tribe of Judah, what John heard. But when he turned, he saw the Lamb that was slain. A sacrifice slaughtered lamb, and his name is Jesus. Jesus was slaughtered for your behalf and my behalf. And that's good news. And because he is worthy and rose from the dead, able to conquer sin and death, he was able to initiate the will of God, which goes into the seals slowly broke. Seal 1 through 4 talks about wars and conquest and famines and death. And then we see at seal 5, we talked about that the martyrs, those who gave up their literal life, that their blood was shed for the sake and the glory of the name above all names, Jesus Christ, are figuratively, symbolically underneath this altar of sacrifice. And they yelled out, how long, O Lord, until you will avenge our death? And Jesus and God basically said, here's a robe, chillax a little bit, I will avenge. So he responds, rest a little bit longer. And then when seal number 6 opened up, we see the wrath of God being revealed. We see all this devastation and sun turning to black and the moon turning to red and all these dramatic influences of God's wrath. So God was answering the question, their question is how long? And God's like, I've got